Good afternoon everyone, it's Kay here again, and I'm here with part 2 of the ABC of paper crafting. So welcome back. I hope you all managed to find the secret word on the Handy Hippo YouTube site. Just to clarify again, if you wish to receive newsletters about special promotions, clearance sales and that kind of thing, you need to sign on to the Handy Hippo craft site where you would purchase from to join the competition for the secret word and have a chance of winning £20 in prize money at the end of the episodes. You need to sign on to the Handy Hippo YouTube site. I don't believe I made that very clear in the first video, so apologies for that. Hopefully that's now understood. Now I'd like to introduce you to everything I have on my table here, because today we are talking about adhesives. Again, there is no great mystery to using adhesives in your card making or indeed any of your craft projects, because all of these items can be used in various ways. I think it's fair to say that most people, when they get started with craft, find things either recommended by someone else or that they've naturally gravitated towards. They find things that suit them very, very nicely, and they tend to proceed with that, unless of course something new comes on the market that is easier to use or perhaps a little bit more cost effective. We all have our different drivers when we're looking at our craft materials, and I think it is fair to say that you tend to use what suits you best and for whatever project you are currently working on. In the world of adhesives, I think we can say quite clearly there are two main types of adhesive. On the one side we have dry glues, or dry adhesives, which would be on my right on the table here. Then we have wet glues, which are on the left or more central. Excuse my little tidy, I keep this one with me. It just keeps everything together and actually helps you tidy up at the end of your craft sessions, and it's nice to have it all in one place. Everything you see here is actually on the Handy Hippo site, which is www.handyhippocrafts.co.uk. So again, to go on with what we're dealing with today, on this side we have the dry adhesives. They include foam tape, and basically all this is as it suggests, a piece of foam sandwiched between two layers to stop it from all sticking and congealing together. You literally peel off, cut whatever size piece of the foam tape that you need, adhere it to your project, peel the back off, and you're ready to go. That is great if you're using a material that you want raised from the surface of the card. I've got a little something here prepared so that you can see what I mean. Where is it? Okay. What I've done here, and this is very, very basic because at the moment I want to keep things very, very simple and straightforward. I have a very good quality piece of card which is scored and folded. I'm intending to use my card in the portrait view, not the landscape view, which means my card will open from bottom to top. I have a little printout that I've got from my stash of CDs, and also some mirror card, which you will also find on Handy Hippo. Now, looking at these three components separately, you would think, oh well, what's she going to do with that? On the back of the picture here, the printed image, I have put some of this double-sided foam tape, but these are actual little cushions of foam, and these come readily cut usually on a flat base. I've just cut these up for convenience sake, and these are quite large, as you can see. They come in various sizes, and they are just foam pads, again with the protector on the outside. So what I've decided to do, having placed these on my image, and you'll notice please that I haven't actually put them all around the outside edge as you might expect. I've moved them in toward the inner aspect of the printout, and you'll see why very, very shortly. So having put my foam cushions on, I will just peel them off. Now if you're fortunate and you've got nails, you can do it with your nails. Failing that, there are these tools on Handy Hippo which are called piercing tools, and they've got a sharp edge with a little cushioned bit on the top here, and all you do is flick that under the corner of the protective adhesive and lift them off. And this makes it quite easy to do. You just lift up a corner and then this will quite naturally lift away for you. So now we have the sticky side. I've cut this mirror card a little bit larger than the image that I'm using, and I've just popped that onto the top of the mirror card. Now if you look at this view, you should be able to see that there is something there holding that picture onto the mirror card, but not necessarily see what it is. If I just pull that up a little bit, and this is the idea with putting your foam pads toward the inner aspect of what you're layering, because then it lifts it away from the card, but you don't actually see the adhesive spots there to cause a problem. So having done that, I am now going to anchor it onto the card. Now this can be done in several ways. We have got this very fierce, I call it fierce because it actually is quite fierce. Once you put this onto your project, you haven't got a hope in Hades of actually getting it off again. This is super, super strong. Or there is this finger lift tape, which is a double-sided tape, which will equally do a very good job of affixing two pieces of card together. There are these runner tapes, if I can get it out of the packet, and these are an excellent idea. This is one from Crafter's Companion, and all you do is lift off this nozzle end. If I put it back on again so you can see, oops, upside down. Okay, you lift off this edge and you will see there is a little runner which rolls as you apply your tape, which brings your tape from the reel inside the container up through, and as you scroll it down through, it deposits the double-sided tape onto the paper. If I just show you on this little bit, if I put it in the centre and you just roll away, and as it comes off the edge of the project, so it cuts itself. And in the centre there, as you can see, you've got an adhesive layer. The only thing I would say about this is it's not for anything of a firm structure, even though it's listed as being extra strong. If you were to be using, for example, the 300 GSM that we spoke about in the first video, then you may well find that you have issues with keeping what you want on the front of the card in place. If you're using card, or a very lightweight card, or indeed paper, you will find that it will do a wonderful job for you. There are then these glue dots. These I have used in the past, and they're, like everything, effective in their own way. These come on a reel. These are large glue dots, and if you just have a look, it's almost just a little dot as it's described. It does what it says on the packet basically. If I lift it off, it's a bit gloopy. Mind you, it's hot today anyway. But what you would do with that, for example, is just pop it onto your work and then peel the backing off, which leaves the glue dot where it is. I don't believe you'd have a huge success in peeling back off once you put it on now. It would just make things messy. So you have to consider that to be a permanent fixative, which isn't a bad thing because that's what we want at the end of the day anyway. But again, it depends on what your project is about and the weight of embellishments that you're using as to whether you would go with that or go with something a little bit stronger. Which brings me then on to the wet glues. Now this is just literally the icing on the cake. There are hundreds upon hundreds of products available. It really is down to what you like to use, what you've been shown works best, what you find works best for yourself. I've actually got some score tape here, and this is absolutely wonderful, I have to say. The pricing of it, if I just have a look at my little notice here, starts from £3.55 and goes all the way up to £9.77, which might sound like a lot of money, but this product is very, very good. It does what it talks about doing. You have 27 yards of the tape, which is a vast difference. I don't think, oh yes, there's 25 metres on this one. Well, we all know a metre is longer than a yard, but you know, that aside, this is not the same quality, I'm going to say, because I've got it here in my hand. This is quite a lightweight product in theory, in actual weight context. I've not used this before, I can't say for sure, but it would suggest that it's not perhaps the most strong of the double-sided tapes available. So, you know, you take your chance with these things, and it really is finding something that you're comfortable with. This, on the other hand, feels like it might be more substantial. It's got all the backing that you would expect. It just feels, by quality, to be the better of the two. I could be completely wrong. You know, I'm just putting it out there that if you want quality in your crafts, then you pay for what you get, basically. And sometimes paying a little bit more for the special projects is a good way to go. Now, again, over to the what we term the wet glues. There are several of them here on the table, and even more available when it comes to purchasing. There is silicone adhesive, art glitter adhesive, Collal, which is a clear liquid, as you can see in the bottle. Then there is Yoo-Hoo and their ilk of, if I can get the lid off, it's a bit stuck. Oh, here we go. Is it going to go? Oh, yep. And this is blue, but that is not significant. It does dry clear, but it does let you know clearly that you have put this onto your project, so you know when you're lining things up for gluing that that is going to be where you need to line it up. There are all these things available on the market. All of them are exceptionally good. I've used the Yoo-Hoo before, contact adhesive. It stays where it's at and it doesn't give too much trouble, but you don't have any manoeuvrability with it. And it takes quite a while to set. This one is absolutely brilliant. It's a designer adhesive. you pay a little bit more for it, but I've known one of these last me 9-10 months. It's white when it comes out of the packaging, it dries clear, but best of all, it dries really, really quickly. So in the event of you having to get a card done double quick and needing to get it to wherever its destination is, using something like this guarantees that within a very short while it will be dry, ready to be written and put into an envelope, and that can't be bad. Then there is this little gem, which is actually a glue pen, and this is a bit of a specialty all on its very own. If I just take it out of the packet before we carry on with the little card that I'm doing, this is how this one is presented. It's, who's it made by? Sakura, I believe. Let me just check. No shaking or squeezing. Yes, Sakura of America. They retail at about, well, under £3, we'll say. It depends where you buy from. There are rules with this one, as there is with all the adhesives, about keeping the cap on it when you're not using it, keeping it stored safely, keeping it away from children, as you would with all of these adhesives, unless you're supervising them. When you come to use this pen, you take the lid off. There's a little gummy kind of ball tip over the actual, oops, I've lost it, over the actual edge of the nib. I don't know if you can pick that up in my hand, but it's like a little glue ball in its own right. That then frees up the liquid to flow through the nib, and for this you would use it for applying small, lightweight things to your project. I particularly use this one for adding glitter, primarily because you can draw in a little bit, put your glitter on, draw on some more, and it is just like drawing around the edge of your project. You add a bit more glitter to it, and then you keep going, and it actually dries as you go. So apart from shaking off excess at the end of your project before you apply it to your main card, you would find that this was drying as you went along, and there would be minimum excess, therefore minimum loss whilst you're working on your projects. So that's a Sakura Quickie Glue. For this particular little card, I would like to show you the Calal, basically because I think of its ilk, it is probably one of the easiest things to start your card crafting with. It's got a non-return nozzle valve, so that when it's sealed, it is sealed, and all you do is turn the little red tip until that sealer is gone right back into the container, which allows free flow then of the glue. And you've also got a little spreading tool here, which helps considerably. So going back to my little image on the mirror card, using the double-sided foam tape, I'm just going to apply some of this onto the back of the card. I'm going to spread it around a little bit. Now this has got an aroma, you do need to be aware of that. So if you are a little bit sensitive to these things, you might like to work with a window open or with somebody standing by with an oxygen mask. Well, not really, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. Just to be sure that you don't react to the fumes. I never have, but some people are particularly sensitive. So what I've done is coated the back of that in the Collal. You can see it's absolutely clear. This does take a little while to become tacky, so you utilise that time to place the topper, we'll call it, onto your card. Now I can make a real mash of this and put it on completely the wrong way. With this you have time, and the Collal has the mobility to allow you to set your work to rights. so you can put it exactly where you want it. Now all that time you'd have thought that it would have gone solid. This is almost like a contact adhesive. If you manoeuvre it and move your work around a little bit, it forms an anchor underneath your work and keeps the work exactly where you want it to be in a kind of Loctite way. You'll see I've got a little bit of the Calal here. That's not a worry either, because the other good thing about this is that with a little bit of pressure, it does, if I can just get it to go, it does actually roll off the work, so you don't have to be left with any little mucky patches that you're not pleased with. And that in effect is just a very basic, simple little card that you could use for a thank you or a thinking of you or something of that nature, which would be most acceptable. And for a beginner, you know, that's a nice place to start. It's when you get comfortable with layering things and making sure that your borders are regular and everything is quite centralised that you start to build your confidence. A lot of it is in how you cut these things. Some of it is mathematical, and you are just measuring up with a ruler or something of that nature, but as you go along you'll find that by eye you can see that you want a particular margin around your main picture to frame it. So that is the Collal glue. I'll just put that little one there so you can see it. And this, I think, is exceptional. It really, really is. I've not known anything fall off from a card that I've made using it. It's very easy to clean up your container once you've finished using it. You just clear it all off, and that's important with all aspects of your craft materials. Always leave them in a good state at the end of any crafting session. If you have something of this nature, it's got a nozzle on it, this has got a sealer on it which I won't take off at the moment, and I do that to stop air getting into it. That is ideal, but you need to clean out your primer. What I have to do on occasions when I'm doing a lot of crafting is take the lid off, wash it through, and then reposition and keep it safe that way. The silicone we will deal with next. Now I personally again love to use silicone. I've got another little card here which I have actually again cut. This is the silver mirror card, so we've got gold and silver. There again lots and lots of different colours that you can use. I've used the double-sided tape just on the back of the piece of matting and layering. That's the technical term for this. This becomes a mat. You choose whatever you want to use for your project. So I put the first mat onto the card in a fairly central way. Just roll over it. Some people use brayers and such like, or there's like a bone folder they call it, and all they do is just run this across the work, and that keeps everything in situ a little bit better. I then have my mirror card. With mirror card, if you're matting and layering, you don't have to be too particular about your fingerprints, because you can just dust off around, but you wouldn't want to get the sticky side of this tape onto the front because it may well lift it off. This becomes layer 2, so we are matting and layering using the double-sided foam tape. And then I have a third layer which I will put on top there, and you notice that I'm using spots and a kind of floral pattern here, but as long as the colours match, they will always come together quite nicely. Now this I'm having opening from the landscape view, so it's opening from left to right. You'll see if I fold this around and treat it a bit rough, all of these layers with the double-sided foam tape are staying in place because they're quite light. So, you know, there's nothing really to put undue pressure on them for the layers to fall off. What I've then found from my stash is this little paper rose. I have used this one, my piercing tool, to roll up the edge of the stem of the rose, and my aim is to just put it in the centre here, roughly speaking. Now you might say she can't use a foam tape, and she can't surely be meaning to use the Yoo-Hoo or a glue dot because it's quite bulky, it's 3D in its setting. And I'm going to say to you, no, I'm not. What I'm going to use is the silicone, and silicone is the crafter's best friend when you are using things like this. So all I'm going to do is take the lid off. I'm going to apply a generous amount onto the back of the flower, and I am going to place that where I want it to be on the card. Putting the lid back on very carefully, because this is another product that you need to use in the right way. If any air gets into the tube, this silicone will go absolutely solid in the tube. Now people complain and they say, oh, I've only used it once, and they go running back to the store they bought it from and say, oh, there's something wrong with this. It's not the product. When you're using silicone, you must be aware of the nature of this adhesive. It is almost like a jelly that will set. It takes about half an hour. If I just show you, it takes about half an hour to get to a really tacky stage. So at this stage I can take the flower off and I can put it back on again. I can do a little bit of manoeuvring. Within half an hour you wouldn't actually be able to do that because it starts to solidify, and when it becomes solid it still has a little bit of flexibility, but it is set. Now if you've ever watched someone putting silicone around a sink or a bath or something like that, they give it the waiting period, and after that a skin forms on the silicone and it's then safe to use. In principle, this is what you're dealing with when you're using it on your cards. The great thing about silicone is not only can you use it to put on dimensional things like flowers, it will also anchor any gems, little flat back pearls, any additives that you want to, embellishments that you would like to use on your projects. It does dry clear, it's great with ribbons, as is the Calal, but for effective use and to have something that you can rely on, particularly if you're posting away and you have to trust the postman to handle your package with care, you would probably want to use something a little bit more substantial to make sure that your product arrives, your gift arrives in good order. Now this is a very, very basic card yet again, but also effective. I think you'll agree. So we'll put those there. Going back to the Collal, I'm sorry this is a bit bitty, but I have to try and get all of these aspects in for you so you understand entirely the versatility. The Collal actually can be siphoned off into a little container like this, and basically what it is, if I take my pin out, and this is how you buy them, again they're on Handy Hippo, not this particular one, but it is a little container. You fill it up with the Collal, you've got this beautiful silver tip on it with the finest nozzle that you would encounter, and then the pin just slots into the top, and that is what keeps it safe in between projects. But this is ideal if you had something, for instance, if I wanted to put some glitter around this little rose, this tip would allow me to very, very gently go right around the very edge of this beautiful rose, which would then let me apply some very fine glitter to it, shake off the excess, and this rose would be completely transformed. And you know, for this kind of thing, if you had something that you wanted finite detail on, this would be invaluable. You can use it on flat back pearls and diamante gems, all the things that are flat and marginally dimensional. This will work very well on it. And you know, say what you will, once you get these basic things sorted out in your mind and you find the products that you like to work with, you can go from this to something like this. Now, if you do card classes and you learn what works for you, then really it transfers across so many different fields. If I hadn't taken classes and learnt about matting and layering and putting something like this together, which is all done with silicone, then I wouldn't be sat here today telling you that this could be your future card making project, that it's limitless and only held back by your imagination, which is a very cliched thing to say, but the market is out there for you to dabble in and look at. If you go to Handy Hippo's site, you will find such a wealth of different mediums and products. It really is about trying some of these things out for yourself, finding the ones that suit you best, and then the rest, so to speak, is history. I hope this has been helpful to you, and I hope if you have any questions you feel you could contact me. My YouTube name is Kazikins1. Otherwise you can contact me through the Handy Hippo YouTube site, and all messages will ultimately come back to me. Please remember to go to the Handy Hippo YouTube site to find the second mystery word towards your 8-word sentence. I believe it's 8 words. And thank you very much for spending this time with me. I hope to see you all again soon. And as I say, I hope this has been helpful to you. Thank you very much for watching. Take care. Bye bye.